How does our willingness to engage in difficult activities affect our ability to engage in more difficult activities, affect our overall health and well-being, our mental, cognitive ability, and even our life expectancy? And is there science to actually back how engaging in difficult activities and a willingness to be able to do that? Is there science to back the ways that this can affect our overall well-being? That's what we're going to talk about today, and I'm really excited to get into that. But before we get into it real quick, this here is Firmly Unbound. Firmly Unbound is an expression of exploration and freedom in work, play, and faith. Everything I'm doing here is not only showing what I am doing to live a more firmly unbound life, but also hopefully encouraging you to do the same and go out there and just live a fulfilling life and live firmly unbound. Now, before we get into that, I do want to say real quick, I really appreciate all of the support that I got on the last video that I made and published here on this channel. That was certainly something that was a difficult thing for me to do, and I am really glad that I did it. I followed a conviction in my heart to share my story of what I've lived through in my life, and there was no way for me to gauge what the response would be to that, and it has been overwhelmingly supportive, and I'm very appreciative of that. If you want to go check out that video, it is the last published video on this channel here, and I just want to say a quick thank you to the people that engaged with that video and sent their support and kind words. And I'm just excited to live on this journey of pursuing a more firmly unbound life, which I think just had to start with airing out where I'm coming from. So really appreciate y'all, and you can go check out that video if you haven't looked into it already. Now, what we're going to get into today is actually an interview with Andrew Huberman, which I honestly did not know a whole lot about him prior to going into this interview, but I do know he is a neuroscientist at Stanford University, and he had a very interesting topic getting into the willingness to engage with difficult tasks, which I think is just so important to hear and understand when it comes to living more firmly unbound, because one of the key things to living firmly unbound, it's even written in the mission statement of Firmly Unbound, is to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. And I just feel like that is something that tends to be true, where if you push yourself outside of your comfort zone, good things happen. But this gets even deeper into it as to the why behind what that is, and if it's actually scientifically proven to have a positive impact on your life when you are willing to engage with things that are uncomfortable for you. And I believe that to be a very important thing, but I was just really excited to hear this interview because it scientifically give some backing to that feeling that I have had. So I'm going to give some time here to listen to, or for y'all to listen to this discussion, and then we'll talk about it just a little bit. And obviously I'm very curious your thoughts on this as well. And then we're going to talk about what I'm doing in my life to push myself to do more difficult things. But let's listen to this portion of the interview here, and then we'll come back.
Doing hard things translates to an ability to do hard things, and probably translates, provided it doesn't kill you, to a longer life.
And you've explained that there's actually a part of your brain that grows.
So there's a brain area that most neuroscientists aren't aware of called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. Okay, scientists who are in the know about it. I teach neuroanatomy, medical students at Stanford. It's an area that we cover in passing, but in the last couple of years, there have been studies of this area, the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, that make it super important for everybody to know about, not just neuroscientists. And here's the deal. A colleague of mine at Stanford, Joe Parvizi, he's a neurosurgeon. He's in there stimulating different brain areas, including anterior mid-cingulate cortex and areas near it, in human patients while they're awake, preparing them for neurosurgery for other reasons. Stimulates anterior mid-cingulate cortex, and what do all people who have their anterior mid-cingulate cortex report? They feel like there's something about to happen. Something's kind of looming, a challenge, a storm. Some will report it as a storm or a physical challenge, but their overall sensation is one that they want to lean into it. They want to challenge it. Now, this area has subsequently been imaged in people who are successful dieters. It grows larger. In people that fail at a dieting or nutrition program, it gets smaller. People that embrace a new form of exercise, and here's the key point, that they don't want to do, this area gets bigger. People that are just doing things that they enjoy doing does not change in shape or size. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. The anterior mid-cingulate cortex is larger in volume in a group of people called superagers. Okay, that's a bit of a misnomer because it implies they age faster. They actually age more slowly as it relates to cognitive decline. The slope of cognitive decline is not as steep in these people, meaning they're holding on to cognitive abilities longer than other people into older age. And the universal quality among these superagers is not just a larger anterior mid-cingulate cortex, but that they challenge themselves to do things that are challenging and they kind of don't want to do or really don't want to do.
Fascinating topic. And I took some notes during this. There's a couple things that really stood out to me. One of them being I definitely have found it to be true in just my own lived experiences that I am more willing to do something difficult after I've already just done something difficult. So an example of this that stood out to me is like when I was selling RVs, and if you haven't seen my Miles RVs channel, you probably have at this point, but I do tours of RVs and I used to sell RVs as well and did that for 3 years. And my least favorite thing with selling RVs was definitely phone calls. I hated calling people. I always felt like I was bugging them, but it's just a necessary thing that you need to do in order to sell an RV. And I hated it so much that it was just like everything in my being resisted wanting to make phone calls to people. However, the times that I found it was the easiest to make phone calls to people that I needed to call was right after I had gone out during the summer times especially and filmed an RV for an hour in 100+ degree heat where it's probably 130, 140 degrees inside of this RV and I got it done. Then I could come inside, reset for a second, and it became much easier to just do the work to reach out and call people that I had been working with and needed to call. And that's just one example of where I know for a fact that it was just inherently easier after I had just done something else that was difficult to go and do that. And then there was another point that I had here. Let me look at my notes real quick, make sure I get this right. Okay, so I understand with like enhancements in our world, things like even just basic things like air conditioning and heating have certainly increased the lifespan of humans. But a lot of our things that we have that make life so much easier today than they were even just 50 or 100 years ago, also I think have created this lifestyle that we see, especially in America, where people live lives that aren't challenging in any way. Like we have stripped challenges out of our life. And I don't know that that is necessarily a healthy thing. I think there's actually a lot of evidence in my own, experiences that I've had in my life where the easier life is, the less fulfilling life feels. And I think there's something in us as humans where we have to be continually challenging ourselves to grow. And I think throughout history, we've always had this as humans where life was just challenging to survive for most of human history. And now within America, we've kind of reached beyond the point where it's not really challenging to survive for most people. And we have to engage in different kinds of challenges that, when your survival's on the line, it's easy to engage in those challenges. But when you don't have to challenge yourself in order to survive, there's a lot more resistance that we butt up across that we have to kind of push through. And I think there is, like he was explaining, it seems like there's actual scientific evidence that pushing yourself through those challenges does increase your overall cognitive ability, especially later on into life. So very curious your thoughts on what you think about that. We're going to get into a little bit more of this interview and then finish this out.
When it comes to the discussion about anything about health, it also is beneficial if people are engaging in healthy behaviors, right? If they're
Right.
Or if they've tried things, like they're trying to be fit. I see Rhonda posting pictures of herself deadlifting now.
But also, it helps me to know whether or not you have any discipline. So there's people that think about a certain thing because it comforts their own thoughts about their decisions that they've made. And there's certain rationales that people make. They rationalize certain aspects of their life and certain things that are going on in society to sort of make up for the fact that they haven't done the work that they probably should have done in the first place. So when I see a guy that's built like Chris or Lex or someone who I know, or yourself, that I know stays very physically fit and takes care of their health, then I have more respect for them because I go, okay, I have more respect for this person's opinion because this person is doing difficult things on a regular basis and confronting their own hesitations, their whatever procrastination, discipline issues, and the physical ability to put in work, which requires mental strength. And for the longest time, for whatever strange reason, people have had this mutually exclusive notion that a person who is physically fit is probably stupid, and a person who doesn't care about their body and only concentrates on the mind, for some reason, that is admired, that this person has no ego at all and doesn't care. But that, I think that person's a fool, because you don't have as much energy to think, because your physical body that you have, you've let decay to this terrible point where your posture's down. Like,
some more interesting points here, and what I really want to hone in on, and I think just needs to be said, is it's very hard to respect an individual who hasn't done anything challenging. I think that's definitely true for me. I think that is true for most people. It's how can you respect somebody who doesn't or hasn't done or been through anything challenging and isn't continuing to challenge themselves? It's very, very difficult to respect somebody like that. So for me, I have to take that into consideration with everything that I do in my life. Like, if I want to be respected, I need to continue to work to push myself. And if you want to be respected, you need to continue to work to push yourself. And that is something that I am doing and trying to live more firmly unbound. So a couple different ways that I'm doing this in my life, and I want you to share as well what you may be doing in your life to try to live more firmly unbound and to push yourself into challenging yourself and trying more difficult things. And now I'm looking at it as I need to challenge myself to literally grow this part of my brain to continue to do more difficult things. But like putting out the video that I put out is my last video prior to this one was definitely one of those things. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. It was something that I felt more like I had to push myself to do to take the next steps forward in growth. I'm also actively trying to learn Spanish. That is something that I really don't want to do, but I think is going to have a very positive impact over the course of my life that will also feel very rewarding. And I think that's something to be said too. There is like some inherent reward system built into our being for doing difficult things and completing difficult things. I also went bungee jumping recently. I am terrified of heights. And when I tell you, I have felt a level of anxiety that I have never felt before in my life. Bungee jumping, it was surreal. Those videos will be coming soon, so stay tuned for that. But man, what a huge literal leap of growing my brain into doing something extremely difficult. When I stood on that ledge, you'll see this video coming soon, I literally was paralyzed with fear. I felt like I could not move. It was insane. But that was something that I did to push myself beyond what I am comfortable doing. And that's more in a recreational way, but I think that even has merit in affecting how I am willing to engage in difficult things in like my professional life and different stuff like that. So those are different things that I'm doing. There's a lot more that I'm doing as well that I could talk about, but I don't want to get too long-winded here. So I want to hear what you believe that you could be doing to grow yourself in your ability and willingness to engage in difficult things, whether it be health, whether it be business, whether it be relationships. Relationships is a big one too. I really struggle with my introverted self not wanting to engage in conversation with people, especially strangers. And I think that's something I'm going to have to push myself out of. I did so with sales, where that was not something that I inherently and naturally wanted to engage in. It was just a means to an end that I ended up becoming decent at. But I think I need to, now that I'm outside of the sales world, I don't engage with people on a day-to-day basis like I did, especially strangers. And that is something I'm terrified of. And I think I need to find ways to consistently push myself to do it anyways. So all different ways that I am looking to explore this further in my life and live more firmly unbound. I would love to hear your thoughts on what you can be doing to increase your willingness to engage with difficult activities and just your overall thoughts on this topic. So let me know what you think. Real quick before we go, I do want to talk about how I finally have my first set of Firmly Unbound merchandise. So you can see here I have this white shirt, and there is, I don't think I have one near me. Let me see. Oh, here's one packaged up. I also have these black shirts that say Live Firmly Unbound. These are going to be coming real soon. This is the first order that I have gotten, so they are going to be available in very limited quantity. So be on the lookout for those coming soon to the Firmly Unbound website, and I'm really excited about that, and your support there will be much appreciated as I don't want to ask for people to like purchase things from me. I want you to purchase it if you identify with the idea of living firmly unbound, and that is something that means something to you. So if that's the case, go check that out. You'll be one of the first few people to have the first set of firmly unbound merchandise. And I also have some stickers and stuff that I will probably throw in there. You can see that there. And then I have like this is the firmly unbound logo. You can see that is an F, and then this is actually a U built into the F. And even like right here, this is a very thought out design that I came up with for this logo. The way that this is disconnected, and then this is like a wavy motion here, symbolizes the ups and downs that we have to push through in life to just have an overall fulfilling and beneficial life. Like life is never just a linear thing. It's always going to have its ups and downs, and you just have to be able and willing to navigate those with as much just gratitude and happiness as you can. So those are all things that you can look forward to on the Firmly Unbound website that will be coming soon, and I'll keep you posted on that. That's all I got for y'all. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, and until next time, live firmly unbound.